Hello, my name is Carlos Saldanha. I'm the director of Ice Age 3, Dawn of the Dinosaurs, and we are back with our beloved franchise, bringing our characters back, the story back, and with a lot of new things. And just to tell a little bit about the making of this movie, I brought in the Blue Sky family, some representatives of Blue Sky family, to talk a little bit about the movie. And here they are.
I'm John Donkin, one of the producers.
Mike Thurmeyer, the co-director.
I'm Michael Knapp, the art director.
Peter DeSev, I design the characters.
Lori Forte, I'm the other producer.
Galen Chu, supervising animator.
Here we go. So guys.
Here we are.
It's nice to be here, actually, at this point, isn't it?
Yeah.
It was really interesting to come back to the Ice Age because we always loved the characters so much that you keep saying, oh, we're coming back to number 3 and all. But actually, we're very excited about bringing to this world because we're able to bring the characters that we love back, but at the same time, add new characters to the story. And that was the fun challenge of this movie, is just to bring back the old ideas in terms of like the family themes and all that stuff. And at the same time, getting like new flavors of this new world that we're trying to explore.
And there's one of our new characters right now.
Which I'm very good.
Talk about Scrat Girl.
Grate was one of the first new characters I had to design for this film, and I knew exactly what I had to do with her. She had to be everything that Scrat was not, which means she was smart, and she was beautiful, and more evolved in many ways. In fact, she can fly. I also spent a long time trying to retain a certain kind of elegant silhouette to her, which is not as easy as it sounds. On top of that, we had to make sure that I wanted her to have very glossy, beautiful fur, sort of like a golden retriever, the kind of hair that you want to just reach out and stroke. The fur department, they nailed it beautifully.
And she had beautiful eyelashes too.
She had beautiful eyelashes. Every part of Scrate had to push this whole idea of her being feminine and smart.
Yeah.
You'll never find it'll take the end of all time.
Now, did we discover that she flies through a drawing that you did, Peter?
As a matter of fact, I wish I could take credit for turning her into a flying squirrel, but that was a story that came from the story department. It was such a beautiful plus to that character, that one thing to really give her an edge over Scrat.
I remember while we're going through the story of this whole sequence. This is one of the first sequences we boarded, like with the Scrat sequence, the opening number. And I remember that we were going through all the levels of, the conflict between the two characters. And then at the very end, like when the idea came up with the wings there, like I had to go back to Peter and say, hey, Peter, I think we have to add wings to the character.
That sequence, too, that wasn't originally in the Ice Age world.
Yeah,
that was
in the jungle.
Yeah, in the jungle down.
It was sort of a teaser to what we were going to see
Where
later.
he falls into the world and that's where he meets her.
Was that always the first sequence in the movie?
I believe it was the first one, yeah.
But we did many things with it. At one point we split it up in 3 sequences.
Oh yeah.
We did many things about that sequence because I always thought it was a very complete sequence, but for that reason, like we experimented with being like, little bits of sequences.
Like teasing her out and telling her story long.
Don't go all the way. But it never worked like that, so we ended up just staying with the whole thing, which was good. Yeah.
And here we have Pregnant Ellie. Which was a nice evolution for the character. And, instead of us keeping the characters the same every movie, we try to evolve them and evolve their relationships. And I think this is a good period of time has passed, and she's in her 6th trimester. So she's almost due. But as far as the character goes, were there changes you had to make, Peter?
There was a little bit of remodeling we had to do on Ellie. We had to... She's rather large to begin with, but had to give her a bit of a baby bump. And I did reference on what elephants look like when they're carrying, and it's actually they carry the baby very high. And
Very high. You can't tell.
if I was accurate about that, it would have looked very awkward. So we just basically expanded her.
Well, it was
her
more.
waist a bit.
It ended up being more about the animation of her, I think.
Yeah, I think
than the visual.
I think you're right, Mike. I think we tried early on to experiment with how we were gonna have Ellie move around so that she would carry a little bit of that pregnancy in the way she moved. It ended up being just a slight adjustment to her walk cycle, just a little bit more of a kind of a side to side waddle to carry, to kind of show that extra weight that she was carrying.
Mm-hmm.
And also some of the things where if she had to get up, she might use her trunk to kind of pick herself up, a little bit extra help. And I think there's a scene in the movie later on where Manny helps her down from a higher ground plane. Kind of little subtle things we did to kind of support that idea in the story.
Mm-hmm.
Talking about this sequence, this exemplifies one of the things that we wanted to do in the movie, which was to play with different kinds of camera moves and more dynamic cinematic camera moves. So the sequence we just saw, the hunt sequence, is really a lot about a moving camera.
The Gazelle character was brilliantly, Bill Hader just did such a great voice of that character. We just laugh every time we see that character.
And I have to say, I was so delighted to see. I'm not always so happy to see some of the characters come back because there's one or two that I just wish I could get my hands on again. It just some things that drive me crazy. But to see that Gazelle character again and really used to amazing effect, that the animation, the camera work on that scene, that whole National Geographic special sequence was very exciting to see.
And I think that when we were conceiving the sequence, like my thought was that pretty much we're going to shoot it like, as if it was a documentary kind of thing, like with long lenses and all that, like kind of like in the beginning, you should really believe that Diego's going to catch the animal just to get the contrast at the end when he kind of like loses breath there.
And it's a great relatable character point, I think, the fact that he's sort of lost his edge and getting up there in age, and how many of us have been there?
Well, I think all of us here.
But I've read about that.
Manny, this is the world our baby's going to grow up in. You can't change that.
Of course I can. I'm the biggest thing on earth.
Okay, Big Daddy. I can't wait.
In terms of also the other relationships, like part of the main story too is about Manny. And as Lori was mentioning before, like continuing the stories of our characters, we keep talking about like in the first movie, the characters get together for the first time and they form this kind of like, dysfunctional little family. And then on the second one, we keep saying like, how can we going to evolve from that relationship? And since Manny was the one in the beginning that lost his family, on the second one, we thought that it would be great if he fell in love again. And that's when he meets Allie, and then here comes like the extended family with the possums, and also we had a lot of fun with that. On the third one, when we started to think about the story, like the premise was like, what if it's the continuation of that relationship? And the most natural thing that come to mind was parenthood. And parenthood was a theme that we tried to make it present in some shape or form, the family, parenthood, and how it affects everybody around it as the main theme of the movie. And that's when we had a lot of fun with Manny as being this kind of like overprotective father, or making believe that he could actually, because he's the biggest thing in the Ice Age, that he could actually make the world like the perfect place for the baby to be born. And therefore he kind of like pushes his friends away. And we had a fun, it took us a while to get all these like sequences put together, but I think we had a lot of fun trying to find relatable new relationship issues with our characters, which make this movie fresher, in that sense of story and all.
And I think this is extremely relatable. How many of us have had friends when we were, younger or single, and our friends got married or had girlfriends or boyfriends, and then suddenly they have children, and basically all the single friends tend to fall away. And for purposes that their friends now have other priorities, they can't go out as much. There are all these responsibilities they have, and their single friends sort of drift off. And that seems to be what's happening, especially in this sequence to Diego. Sid is oblivious, obviously. He thinks that, the child is going to be his regardless. But Diego really has that sense of, things have changed and it's not the boys' club anymore.
This was a tricky section to get right, though. Like the conversation and how the particulars of it, because it's such a sensitive thing, or there's a very particular feeling.
Well, they're kind of breaking up.
Yeah, in a way, yeah.
The romance is over.
We always keep thinking like in the third one, what if we have this fear that maybe the herd will be over, like that they are each one going to go separate ways. And we always felt that was a good way to get started, because part of the story will resolve. It's a bigger arc for the characters, like throughout the story. The journey would be just them to find each other again.
And it's interesting that this is like really the only scene in the movie that the three main characters are together until the very end.
Until the very end, yeah.
That's right.
And it's all separate stories.
And that was a big challenge too, because we are used to having the chemistry of these characters all together at the same time. And that helped us a lot with the relationships and the comedy between them. And then we had to find new ways of achieving the same result, but with knowing that the chemistry of the herd is more like them splitting up and rather them all together.
I have to say too, I mean, I don't want to get all technical, but I got to say the backgrounds and environments in the movie, if you compare it against Ice Age 1, it's like light years better. It's really amazing.
It's such a rich movie.
Yeah.
I think the trick was to make it look like it felt of the same world. We were trying, taking advantage of the technology and new takes on the artwork, but make it still feel like they hadn't gone to a new planet, and
looks great. You guys
also bringing back the Ice Age, I think that was very important. Yeah. Like for the first act was like, since this movie is going to take us to a different world, we said like in the beginning, it needs to be the Ice Age world. And we need to bring back, and this is one thing that a lot of people ask about. Is like, what's new about this movie technically? And we've done so much since the first one that it's like incredible, but might not be seen right away by the audience. But for us, like that have to deal with creating the movie and all, there were so many little details. Like we're much better with effects, much better with the lighting model. Like the elements that we have here takes like, it just feels richer. Like, did we use Radiosity?
We used Radiosity. Probably a lot more than some people would have preferred, but also Materials did some amazing work in layering their textures and like they'll put down rock and then sediment will grow on the rock and then moss will grow on the sediment, and they would have just natural ways for surfaces to kind of grow and feel organic.
But I think gorgeous. Each movie we've done has sort of progressed that way. I mean, from the first, if you look at the first to this one, I mean, it's huge differences. Yeah. But if you look at the first to the second, we did have some leaps. And then the second to the third, I mean, hopefully, if there will be any more, hopefully we'll continue to grow. But every movie, the technical challenges are always great. And we always tend to meet them. We have such an amazing crew that just rise to all the challenges.
And the increase in technology gives us the ability to do more stuff with flexibility of moving the camera a lot more, and just realizing the imagery is so much more rich because of the technology and the increase in the speed of computers.
One of the big technical challenges of this movie was that this movie not only was going to be bigger with dinosaurs, with the big world of the Lost World and all that stuff with the forest and all, but was because it was our first 3D movie. I mean, 3D, it's done in 3D in the computer, but projecting 3D, what we call stereoscopic projection, which is like in this, new technology of an old concept of 3D that kind of like now it's much better. And we had just to really change the way the pipeline would work after animation and lighting just to accommodate this new way of projecting the movie.
What this really means is that for each frame in the movie, of which there's about 120,000 frames, we had to render each frame twice, once for the right eye and once for the left eye, and then the stereoscopic projection and wearing those funny glasses allows your two eyes to receive each of those unique images at the same time, and then your brain does all the rest of the work and makes the image appear to be 3D.
Yeah, and making it in 3D it didn't change the way that we created the story. The story was like set, the movie was the movie we wanted to make, but allowed us to be more careful in terms of camera composition, camera placement, character composition into the shots, movement, just to make sure that it would work on both versions, like what we call the mono, which is the traditional 2D projection that we see, and the stereoscopic, which is the 3D version that we had.
So the movie came out in some 3D theaters and then in obviously some traditional theaters.
Yep.
How many animators were there, Galen?
I think in our crunch, we were at about mid-70s.
And all the animators worked on all the characters. There wasn't one animator who did Sid and one animator who did... I mean, a group of animators that did one character, correct? What was the challenge? How did you get them all to, keep true to the characters when there were so many different animators doing one character?
Well, luckily we had Ice Age 1 and Ice Age 2 to leverage off of. We knew who our characters were, we knew how they were going to be, and we knew where we wanted to take these guys for Ice Age 3. A lot of the casting also has to do with their abilities that they are coming in with. So more experienced animators were able to kind of latch on to the characters much more easily. than kind of the newer guys. But yeah, that was basically our job in Sweatbox. Carlos, Mike, and myself, we would sit there and we'd make sure that the characters were consistent, and they stayed true to who they were.
We did have issues a little bit though, and that the team had just come off of Horton Hears a Who, which was like super stretchy and squishy in a completely different style, and sort of everybody was still in that mode that when they started Ice Age, everything sort of was a little looser. I mean, it was cool and everything like that, but we had to kind of true to the original style of the film.
That was Carlos's first battle in the animation department. It's like, all right, everybody, let's get back into the Ice Age world. Make sure these guys stay true to who they are.
I know, but it's a learning thing too, because we managed to loosen up a little bit more in terms of the animation. That it was just a matter of finding the perfect spot, though. Once we found it, like it took a little while to get it, and I remember watching some shots that the guys looked like a rubber ball, like bouncing off of the things, and we needed to kind of like, okay, let's bring it back a little bit, but you can use a little bit of this here, a little bit. So it's like finding our way through it was an interesting.
I do think in the end we struck a good balance. I think it is a little different from Ice Age 2, but it's good, like different in a good way, where it's a little bit looser than what we're used to animating, but we didn't go too far off the edge where it felt like a different world, different movie, different characters. So I think we struck a good balance in the end.
What do you think?
One thing that we did a lot in this movie too, especially in the sequence prior to this one when the egg was rolling down the hill stuff, we did a lot of previs, which allowed us to like find a lot of the action sequences, because a lot of these sequences are in the storyboards because it was action. It was hard to sell like to people watching is, this is going to be fun. So the best way that we did it was by actually getting to the computer and just getting a couple of like really like smart animators and just get them to really block out the sequence in a very rough format and give us a little bit of a sense of what we're going to get. And then with music and all the stuff, like, was very successful. We did that quite a bit with the sequence when Diego chases the gazelle, and also with the sequence when Sid is chasing the eggs.
And this is the first sonogram in history.
The first sonogram in history, yes, indeed. No, I remember there was always a question about the faces on the eggs and stuff, like, and I remember, like, how did you, like...
Oh, it took like 50 drawings to get and then it took 50 more to get them smudged right. It's like, and that smudge isn't funny enough.
And the pregnant Sid on the wall, the shadow of the pregnant Sid, that took a long time to actually make it read.
I know.
It looks so easy in the storyboard. Just do this.
Yes.
It's those days when you're looking at like a shadow of like pregnant Sid on the wall where you're like, this is my job. I can't believe this. Or you're like looking at 50 drawings of faces on eggs and you're like, I come to work and get paid to do this. It's really bizarre.
You get paid?
Yeah. Yeah, didn't you hear?
And here we go, like, again, like, introducing new characters. A part of the thing, like, the shot of, like, at night, like, in sound design, we're trying to figure out, like, we need to create recognizable sounds of dinosaurs in this movie. And it was really fun just to explore that with Randy Tom at Skywalker and just getting all that stuff put together. Because there's been a lot of dinosaur movies before. And we knew that would be a challenge in this one. So what would that make this movie unique? And part of it, there's many things that made this movie unique. One of them is the design of the characters. Like, and Peter can talk a little bit more about that, which was kind of like, we needed to make them look dinosaurs at the same time, like they need to fit in the Ice Age.
In fact, with the baby dinos, I consciously tried to pick up some elements of Sid's face and anatomy so we could play up that imprinting that goes on here.
I never noticed. That's great.
Yeah, I never knew that.
Oh, I knew that all along.
Oh, yeah, sure.
It's interesting because this is the point in the story at which the movie really takes off, and it's because this is the element that people have been waiting for. It's the arrival of the dinosaur. Yeah. And everything up until this point is pretty much set up for this and for the character dynamics and kind of picking up where we left off. But it's at this point in the movie where the audience is really ready to go along for the ride.
Yeah, it's like the first act, it seems long, but there's so much information actually packed in there. All the relationships set up.
You have to have those.
All those elements need to fall in place.
Characters and where they all are in their lives and what's going on.
But this is the first, not the first, but the biggest change in the overall dynamics of the thing. And as soon as you see those guys walk out on the screen, you know that something bigger is going to happen. So it's really fun.
That's the thing. You mean this is animal.
One question that always gets, people saying like, oh, how, the dinosaurs didn't live in the Ice Age. Right. And then we always get that question. And And it was funny because in the first movie, we actually had a guy, an expert in like Ice Age and all that stuff from the Museum of Natural History. And he told us like, whatever you do, just don't put dinosaurs in the movie. But for some reason, even on the first one, we had it frozen in the ice museum. So like, I wonder if that was kind of subconsciously, we knew that we were going to get there someday because we did that. Also in the second one, we had those two like, Cretaceous and Maelstrom, those two big characters that were frozen in ice.
Yeah. We look very smart actually from the beginning. It looks like we planned everything.
Everything in every movie. Like,
well, there's a UFO in the first one too. I can only imagine.
No, but the thing is like we embrace it. I have to say that at first when I heard that, when we talked about the idea, I thought was like I was excited, but I was afraid of it at the same time because I was excited because I love dinosaurs. I always did since I was a kid. I was very excited with this new idea. But I was a little bit concerned about the logic that we set up in the first movie. Besides the logic that animals can talk, I think, no, but I was like, how can we make this kind of like more its own thing? And that's when we decided to like explore this idea that what if they found a new world? What if like, it's like, a genre movie kind of in a way, just like when you go to the island and find King Kong, when you go to like the Himalayas and find Shangri-La. So, and the inspiration like Jules Verne. So there's all these kind of elements that we can tap into that it creates the movie its own thing and we can have fun with it.
For myself, I was very excited to hear that we were going to do a film with dinosaurs. I mean, as a character designer, I've plumbed the fossil record in the Ice Age as pretty deeply as I can. And I was running out of things to reinvent. So having this be about dinosaurs opened up an entirely new menu of characters for me. And I think, I don't want to speak for everybody else, but I did get the impression that everyone was very excited to be able to come to a world that has a new palette and new textures, and to put the characters in a new context was, I think, very exciting.
And I think, dinosaurs, yes, we've seen them in other movies. We're not inventing anything new except for the wonderful designs that you did, of course. But the one thing that has never been shown in other movies is a maternal instinct for one of the dinosaurs. I mean, we see the mama dinosaur and the relationship she ultimately has with Sid and then with her kids. And we've never seen that before. And I thought that was always something that was fun that we were exploring that would be new.
They were always just like terrible creatures before.
Yeah.
And now we actually found a way to make them sympathetic and.
Well, one of them maybe.
Yeah.
Well,
babies too.
Yeah.
For sure.
Mm-hmm. But we had a lot of fun discovering the movement on this guy. Like I remember, Gal and his team just really getting to explore like the way that he would walk, the dinosaurs would walk, the little kids, the difference between like the kids' dinosaurs and the. So we had a lot of fun with that kind of element of discovery. That's something that we never animated before like that.
And again, I was very pleased to see a lot of these characters come back from Ice Age 2 because, each of these characters, a long time is spent on them, even if we've been promised that, that'll just be in the background. They won't talk. Usually those characters end up getting a speaking role in their own movies. But it's great to see a lot of these characters come back and have more stuff to do.
I think for me, one of the, when I got onto the show, one of the first things I did was I put all the characters together, had them run forward, and put a walk cycle of the T-Rex mom in there. And that's the first time when the movie, for me anyway, really started to crystallize in terms of, wow, the potential here. Scale difference, oh my gosh. And putting the camera low and seeing Manny so tiny next to this massive, massive dinosaur is so impressive. Mm-hmm. And even with the early materials that were on there, it was just, wow, this is going to be really amazing. It was really nice.
Which is why Manny says at the beginning of the film, I'm the biggest thing on Earth, because then we take him to a world where he's not the biggest thing on Earth and he's dwarfed by all these characters. And it was a great theme to use.
No, and also I always felt intrigued by what if there was a dinosaur in ice, a dinosaur in the Ice Age, like the contrast of the colors or the palette of those two worlds. It's the two worlds colliding, like something that you never expected to be in the Ice Age. All of a sudden it's there. And again, for Manny's story, I always thought that was really interesting because in a way, he kind of need to realize that actually he can't control the world. He always thought that he was the biggest, the better guy in the herd. And actually he realized that actually he's puny. He's just like a little creature. That's much, almost like the dinosaurs could be almost a metaphor for the bigger problems ahead in life, as a scale. And therefore Manny realizes that, to face those big problems, he cannot do that alone. He needs the friends to do it. So I thought that was the scale and the idea of the dinosaurs and Manny for me was more in a way, to put Manny, to make Manny realize what he's going through, And seeing this dinosaur for the first time in the Ice Age was very exciting, even in the early stages. You get a feeling of cool, scary, what's gonna be, and you kind of once you see it, you kind of just enjoy the ride. It just feels like you're getting into a very exciting movie right there with the dinosaurs.
The challenge for me as a character designer, especially with Mama Dino, was she has to come off very scary in the beginning.
Yeah.
But she has to also be a mama. And I had to design her in a way that she could play that whole spectrum of emotions. And, of course, the riggers and the animators just took her, just ran with it. And she's everything I was hoping she'd be.
Nobody move a muscle.
And also we did a lot of cool stuff with camera here. This was another sequence that we really explore, trying to figure out cameras and trying to shoot more than what we needed. Try to do a lot of experimenting with angles, the scale of the dinosaur, the flaring, and elements that, lighting. It's a combo of all the elements that we wanted to do, cinematic angles, scale of the dinosaur, animation of them, effects, lighting, everything converging to this big, massive, act break sequence.
I think it really changed the way we had to shoot it. Because, in the previous Ice Age movies, because Manny was always the biggest, we had to shoot him in such a way that he looked big. And now we needed to shoot in a way that Manny looked small and that the dinosaurs looked big. So it did change where we placed the camera, how we shot, the kind of lens choices we made, and so forth.
Yeah, I think it's easy to forget that Manny's 15 feet tall. He's bigger than a bus.
Yeah.
So you get accustomed to that.
And our dinosaur is probably 3 or 4 times bigger than the actual dinosaur.
Yeah.
But that's a part of it,
Movie magic.
Take a lot of artistic license.
There's a lot of good food down in the dinosaurs, so they got them to be really beefy and stuff,
Growth hormones.
And all that stuff. But that was something that we play a lot with scale. I think we scale up and down these dinosaurs quite a bit just to find the perfect balance, because sometimes they will look too small, they will look too big, or you couldn't fit in the camera.
Well, actually, sometimes we had to just scale her head down.
Yes.
Because when you're shooting up, sometimes it can just look like a bubble head if you don't have the reference of the body. So we just scale it down just a touch so that it looks appropriate.
Well, it presented a challenge for the materials guys, too, because when you shot Mama in a wide shot, her textures needed to look a certain way, but there are shots where her face gets right up in camera. And so you needed to maintain almost 2 different scales between the size of the texture on her skin so that when it got up close, there was still a lot of detail there.
We also put quite a lot of color into these dinosaurs. Even, there's a lot of experimentation with that.
We wanted to approach them as if they were mosaic tiles. And so that when you are far away from them, you see the broad color patterns and the colors that identify each dino. But when you get up close, you can see lots of just almost impressionistic detail in the colors on the different scales. And so that had this overall sort of unifying theme to it.
Here's another huge turning point in the movie is the transition from Ice Age world up above to this underground world below. And it gave great opportunities to really change the way in which we realize the imagery.
I remember seeing this as a concept drawing at the very, very beginning of our exploration, our discovery, and just it was amazing. It was just so powerful, and seeing them walking down, it was just such a great thing. And I'm so thrilled that it ended up in the movie. Actually,
Such a great shot.
We played around with where it would be in the movie, though. But I think at the end, this was the best place to put it.
It sort of started out as a dino graveyard, I think, conceptually.
Yeah, that's right, with tar pits and graveyard. That was the drawing came from, and then we kind of decided to do as the bridge to connect the 2 worlds, and that was where it stayed. But I remember one point that I tried to put it in the middle of the movie. Again, like a graveyard, to see if that would have a story point there, but it never worked there. So we decided just to keep it like where it is now, and it was great because it becomes like a little bit of the opening and the closure of the world as a very recognizable theme. And then this is, as John was saying, like now is a transition to the new world.
Hey, what was that?
You'll have to see the movie.
Nervous.
You have to see the movie now.
Yeah.
And as they walk into this new world, I mean, this is where Mike Knapp, you just excelled. This is just an incredibly lush and such a different world. I mean, talk a little bit about what your thought was.
I remember if there was any changes to make, we couldn't make the change. We were not going to make it into the movie, so you had to nail this.
What were the challenges?
Probably the scariest part of production for me. Well, the biggest challenge was to have 2/3 of our movie set underground and not feel like you're in a cave the whole time. So we were, trying to get light coming through this ice ceiling and the vegetation growing everywhere, trying to make it feel naturalistic, but then also be able to render it, figure out ways to do that. We had to come up with ways to create lots of distant columns and reusable assets that could fill in the backgrounds to make it feel vast, and again, try to keep it all under control from a production standpoint.
On that note, we put this in production pretty early, probably a lot earlier than anybody would have wanted.
Yeah.
But in hindsight, I think it was a good move because it kind of set the tone.
It became our look dev.
And it became a way that defined sort of the look for a lot of the sequences. By having that big overview of what the space was, it really allowed us then to concentrate on the more micro sets and figure them out.
And it was by far like the most ambitious set. So I think we figured out in world spacing here, you're looking across about 21 miles.
Yeah, it's incredible.
Are you nuts? We're not getting on that thing.
It's either this dinosaur or that one.
And what's the name of that dinosaur, Peter?
That's an ankylosaur. Thank you for asking. That low-slung guy with the mace at the end of his tail. I was promised that he would be in the background.
You always make promises like that to you, Peter.
And I never believe it.
This shot here also, I remember, Peter, when we start the movie, we do a bunch of images that just to sell the idea of the movie. And I remember that we did this shot with dinosaurs surrounding our characters, all these just gigantic dinosaurs surrounding. And I always remember that on one of the first color prints that we had that I thought was a very cool and different look. That's kind of like what sold the world of dinosaurs with our guys. And something. And here comes a new fun character, Buck, the voice of Simon Pegg, which was awesome.
Oh, great.
He was amazing. He was just brilliant to work with, and his performance, we just love Buck.
It was great also, like, just to figure out the mechanics of the animation to him.
Yeah, I mean, for the animators, he was really a lot of fun to experiment with. I mean, during experimental, we just went, all over the place with him and wanted to try all these different things with this really cool spine that was able to twist and turn and get into knots. And, we just had a lot of fun with him, and he was a lot of fun to animate.
And also, he was a kind of a hybrid. We wanted to be like an Indiana Jones meet like Colonel Kurtz from Apocalypse Now, like this kind of fun element of the character that, and also like this moment that coming up now that, that reveals Buck. It was a great thing that also Peter had done that as a little bit of a drawing. Like was this like tiny little drawing in the corner of a page that I always thought was kind of like this is Apocalypse Now. Like there's a fun like a moment there that to have with this character.
Oh, with his head rising out of the water.
And I remember when we were looking at animation, I don't know, Galen, if you remember, but he came up and then the guys would do a little eye twitch, do a little eye. Like no, don't animate anything. Just have him come out straight out of the water.
Yeah, totally. He's not even blinking.
Yeah, I'm so delighted with what the animators did with this character. As soon as I learned that Buck was to be a weasel, I started doing drawings taking advantage of that very unique weasel shape, which is a tube basically. And I did many drawings of him twisting and turning and leaping in all ways that are unique to that kind of an animal. The animators just went to town with it.
It's interesting. Anytime you introduce a new character in the movie, I think it takes the audience a little time to understand what he's about and whether you like him or not. But in the introduction that we did with Buck here, with him coming in to save the day and immediately failing in a comedic way, I think it made the audience like him right from the very beginning. And then all his quirky talking and introduction things here, I think at the end of the scene, you're really feeling like, I like this guy. I want him to come along for the ride.
He's great because he's he is really adept. I mean, he knows this world the way none of the others do. And he is a survivalist. He is an adventure seeking guy, but at the heart of it, he's a little crazy too. I mean, he's just loony. And I think people kept saying how much they loved that element of him, the craziness, the guy that's a little loopy.
And part of it is going to his head. And this is like some like, stylistically, like we discover just new styles in lighting and the storytelling that we always went into Buck's head. This was a great little snippet of a moment, both like visually and musically, that we like the sound effects and stuff.
That's one of the things I think that really is unique about this movie. It sets it apart from the other two, the different ways you chose to tell the story cinematically. With these flashbacks and getting inside of Buck's head, it's so rich and very funny.
You think this is some sort of tropical getaway? You can't protect your mate. What are you going to do with those flimsy tusks when you run into the beast?
We did these little zooms like that just throughout the movie with Buck. Whenever he made a statement, we used that as a cinematic style to just kind of.
We had like meetings about the zooms. Like, is there a lot of motion blurred? Is Buck motion? So they threw up all these examples of like various ones, and it ended up being we just picked the simplest one because we just wanted to slam into his face and see what was going on.
That patch for free? That's so cool. Yeah,
one thing that is also cool about this is just like when we design these characters, we design them for the Ice Age world. We design them like against like white backgrounds, blue backgrounds, very kind of like, Ice Age kind of like environment that's not very lush, not very busy in a way. And then we created this enormously incredible world of like forest and tropical forest. And also like one of the fears that I had would be like these guys will camouflage in the world because it's kind of like completely different in the way that the palettes and stuff. And I think that lighting wise, with like some of these like, lighting models with the volumetric lights and all those elements in the atmosphere, like, it was an incredible job that Mike and his team did.
It was all the color of the greens too.
The green, that was good. Well, the biggest challenge was really Scrat's a little tricky because he's so neutral, but Sid is like he turns into the color of whatever he's in front of. It's really it's
brilliant camouflage.
Yes, he's exceedingly great at hiding. So that he was probably our biggest challenge to get him to read. The rest of the characters, especially the mammoths, being so much warmer, stand off the greens really well. And then of course. Scratay, she pops really nicely in this.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
There's a great bit here where her ears kind of become devil horns. It was like a subtle.
Yeah,
the legs here. This was total animation, right?
That little musical riff that her fingers are walking. I think John Powell actually did like 20 versions of them. Played us 20 versions, and we had to choose the one that actually ended up in the movie.
Sounds like a jungle of misery to me.
Hold on.
Why? What's wrong? Peaches?
What? No, it's just I got a funny feeling.
You're hungry. Low blood sugar. Well, there's some fruit.
No, Manny.
I wouldn't do that if I were you. This isn't exactly your playground.
like I'm really going to be afraid of a pretty flower.
This is like a big set piece, like we went back and forth on this quite a bit, but it was one of the massive set pieces that we had to work with.
A lot of aspirin-inducing moments for you, right, Mike?
The goal here was to try to make this environment feel as alien as possible. So this is off the charts. If we've gone into the dinos world and that's, lush and tropical, this place is something else entirely.
But the flower was a character too, right?
Yeah. Actually, this carnivorous plant almost made it into the second movie.
Yeah, with the Scratch story.
So we had the basis for the design lying around, and this was a natural place to use it. It's
because the lure was a nut.
That's right.
For the Scrat to go after the nobody.
Right.
But this sequence was huge technical challenges across the board because there was complexity of the animation of the character, of the plant, and then the water effects and in every turn, it's a combination of technically difficult stuff.
Animating 3 characters pressed up against each other and still having them perform and get the story points and the emotions across was really challenging for us.
And this was always fun, trying to set it up as if it was like a bomb that he had to detonate.
Choose the right.
That he had to, choose the right one.
And we had many more stuff there. We had a countdown. We had little like pods that would come like when we exploring. This sequence was like, we explored so many cool stuff with it. I think we ended up with the right amount of it. But I remember this was a great like sequence for exploration there. And also the sequence that eventually looked really cool also in 3D.
I would imagine that getting this effect of being in this plant juice could not have been that easy to accomplish.
Well, the funny thing is, actually, it looks like there's liquid in there, but in reality, and there is no liquid in there. There's the bubbles are just spheres that are floating up, and we just move the fur so that it looks like it's underwater, and just the color
I
of the
think
lights.
lighting and compositing added the sort of murk to the space that they were in.
But all that murk has to be done in 3D so that it has dimension. So it was not as straightforward as just make it a color.
And we love the slime, of course.
Of course. And it's funny, every little thing that seems like small here, like the slime on the guy characters, it's such a, like, I remember going to meetings and meetings over and over again just to talk about that. Is it too dark? Is it too this?
Yeah.
Like, I think that's one thing that is really cool about Blue Sky and the team is just like, the search for the perfection or the care for the craft. Like, people just really put their hearts in. So even if it's just little slime coming off of the nose, we really pay attention to it, and it's really fun.
I remember hearing a page about the vomit meeting will be happening now.
If you walk into a middle of one of these meetings without knowing what it's about, it can be disturbing.
Or like, how long are they wet? Do they dry off over the course of 10 shots?
10 shots, the science, the math of making a movie.
And people are firing questions at you, and you're like, I don't know. Just make it look cool.
Just make it look good. Just make it look good. This is, I think, one of the most challenging sequences, I think, overall, in terms of, this was one of the early sequences. It was one of the first sequences animated. And we had to deal with this, again, with this complexity of Sid and Mama into this world and Sid blending into the perfect, this world. So I remember that we kind of struggled with this quite a bit.
And we were still figuring out the overall look of the world at this point. This I think might have come in even before the big reveal.
About the same time.
Yeah, so we were trying to figure out a lot of things simultaneously. And then, Sid was just blending into the vegetation every shot.
Whoa! No, you guys. And I don't say that to everyone.
Even in sound design was a big challenge because we needed to figure out a way, because Sid has a lot of dialogue in this sequence and it's in the middle of a lot of action. So I remember when we animating, we had trouble with it. And then after we animated, just trying to get the, in lighting just to make sure that they would stand out. And also with sound effects, with the combination of the big sounds of the dinosaurs and the dialogue. So I remember this was one of the things that we worked the most at it,
we ended up pulling some music out in the middle because it was just easier to simplify.
And we slowed down a couple of dialogue. We just did a lot of little things just to make sure that we could get what was happening.
Did I mention how great I think she looks? Bring that up.
She does.
And this is what was one of the first shots that we animated with her. Actually, we animated this before we animated the first shot that she came into town. Yeah. And that was interesting to see how much we could emote her there. We were just discovering the character as we went through it.
Those are Kentrosaurs. Thank you, Mike. Those are Kentrosaurs.
I wanted to look smart.
Joking? He's relentless.
We had fun with our old Ice Age characters with Crash and Eddie. I think they ended up being really funny in this movie, just sort of as supporting characters to the main thing, but they really have some great bits.
My lawn. Go on, shoo.
Love the butterfly.
I love that.
Is that Mothrasaur?
Yeah.
Mothrasaur.
Yeah.
Mothra, yeah.
Now we had to have giant insects there. Gotta have it.
It's funny now when you're doing a threequel or any sequel, as you've been adding characters to a movie, now you have 14 main characters or something, and only 90 minutes you have to try to give each character
I think was one of the biggest challenge story-wise, just how to pay them all off, how to give them a proper screen time, and how to make them interact was a big thing.
This is one of my favorite moments.
One of the funniest.
When Buck talks on the phone, it's just the funniest thing.
Well, remember, it's not a phone, it's a rock.
Yeah.
A rock, of
just
course.
for the record.
He pretends it's a phone.
Amazingly animated, I have to say.
Oh, just beautiful.
And Simon, oh my God.
I'm going to lose you. Yeah, I love you too. All right, goodbye. Goodbye.
Let's just enjoy it.
Okay.
He's such a pro. It's I don't know, there's actors that we work with that we animate, and the best of the best are able to give you a range of texture like highs and lows and the pitch of the voice and the rhythm of how they speak. It just makes it like easy to animate.
I've got to say too, you know, Simon did come to the studio and he had a chance to talk to everybody that was working on the movie. And when we had a chance to talk to him, he really, I feel, got the character. He was really able to sum up who he feels Buck is. And I feel like he was completely on point, and he even understood it more than I think we did as a department at the time. It really felt like he studied his character, the script, and he knew what he was doing, I feel.
You know, he always came prepared, and he always, you know, had thoughts and would say, you know, we don't speak like that in England, or someone British wouldn't say those kinds of things. And then he would change it to sort of adapt to what Buck should sound like. And he was great.
Yeah, he added so much to it. And also the challenge when we bring new characters to an already known character group, like we already knew and loved the main characters, you know, so bringing a new character is a big responsibility. We did that on the second one with Ellie and the Possums, and finding the perfect voice is very difficult because you already have 3 of the main cast, like being perfectly cast, like with Manny Ray Romano, Diego with Dennis Leary, like Sid with John Leguizamo. And then when we brought in Ellie and the Possums, we had to find like what would be the voice that we add to the cast, but not take you away from it. So, and this is the challenge that we face with Simon. I thought, you know, if you listen to all the groups together, and we usually listen to all of them together just to make sure that they all feel in the same world.
Panic! Just some technical difficulties. Keep holding it in, boys.
One of our favorite sequences, the Chasm of Death sequence. First of all, I mean, just the laughter and just everybody just loved the sequence, but the art direction of the sequence is just, it seems simple to look at, but I'm sure it wasn't, but it's just gorgeous.
We had so many debates over what was the funniest shade of green.
Green is funny.
Yeah. Not to mention, you watching this, it's clear that you guys push the rig a little bit in the faces, right? I mean, the faces are distorted
from the effect of the gas. And but one thing that was interesting, I remember that when we were starting to write about the sequence, we were talking about like the chasm, what it would be, and the gas and stuff. I remember coming one morning and just asking the editor Harry, just saying like, Harry, just grab a bunch of dialogue from these guys. We haven't recorded anything yet, and just like crank the, you know, I don't know if it's like speed it up, right? To get like, you know, pitch it up and skin like, and just let's listen to it. How do they sound? And I remember listening to Manny, to Ray Ramon's voice, like to Dennis and everybody's voice. And it was instantly comedy right there. Right. And I remember like showing to the writers and Laurie, like, which is, come over here, guys. I want to show you something. And then it's like, let's just use this. Let's make sure that we have the voice that would help us, like, you know, write the sequence. And that's when the ideas of gas and like, you know, came through. And it was awesome just to see the writing. We didn't change. This is one of the sequences that when it was written was very kind of like we knew what we wanted to get.
We had 3 writers working on it, but yes, basically what we got was essentially what we ended up with in the movie.
And was a mixture of like, you know, a concept, experimentation with sounds, and like all these departments kind of coming together and creating a sequence that I thought was very successful.
We also were faced with the challenge of trying to come up with a sequence that didn't depend on dinosaurs, but was still unique to the world, because we realized early on that we couldn't have a sequence after sequence where they just encountered a new dino and have them being snapped at or whatever. So it was really driven by our desire to introduce something new.
But driven also by character, too. Exactly. Because I think that the main key of the sequence was that we wanted to find a sequence in the middle of the second act that remind us the issues of the characters that we kind of like might have forgotten because of all the set pieces and stuff. And we needed to get the audience back into the character's mind. And part of the sequence came out of the concept of maybe, what if they kind of like, they come clean, like how can we make them come clean without having an exposure, like a sequence that just blah, blah, blah. It's something that we be a set piece and they will just be able to. That's when the dialogue, we had like a lot of like great ideas there.
And I remember before the sequence existed, as it is now, it was like another like crossing a bridge.
Yeah, it was, the bridge was here, like the bone bridge.
The bone
was
bridge,
like here,
and it was like, oh, another bridge sequence. We've seen this in movies. We've done this.
But in story, I think Eric Favela, you know, did the first pass of the board was really great.
Yeah.
I've got to say he did a really good job drawing those faces too. I mean, he actually pushed it way farther than what we ended up with. We just ended up kind of finding the middle ground and kind of.
But it's great that the story artist can influence the animation so much, just with like how
every now and then you recognize a favela drawing in the post. That's pretty awesome.
Yeah. No, it's good. Like, and we used the storyboard of the sequence, which was a beautiful storyboard too, as an inspiration for the animators to push the rig, push the faces, so we can get the best out of the sequence.
No, I've raised them vegetarian. It's a healthier lifestyle. I mean, look at
this. Is an Archaeopteryx, a flightless bird.
Flightless bird.
Was it really flightless? Do we know for sure?
I know. I read about this.
Oh, no, you know what? It's not flightless. It's a proto. No. It's a proto bird. It's one of the they think
some of them were flightless. So
he just couldn't fly.
Very well, and some of them weren't. Yes,
this particular one.
Yes,
I can fly, just not very well.
It's not licensed.
Yeah,
But at the end of the day, nobody was there. So who knows?
That's right. That's
exactly.
right. I have to keep reminding myself of that. Very happy with the way this character came out, and very sorry that he meets such a quick, untimely end.
Well, we don't know.
He would have been great.
That's right.
I don't know for
Might be
sure.
Okay.
I always love the idea of like the turkey.
I'm
sounds.
coming to save you.
Little flightless.
Yeah.
just like Old Yeller.
But talking about character, I mean, this is such a great sequence where Sid, despite the most ridiculous odds, is still trying to be a parent, and he's arguing with a dinosaur, I mean, it's just ridiculous.
Right, that they should share custody.
Some really nice character acting on Mama's part here.
Yeah,
Expressions on his face are just great.
That was one of our main challenges. That was one of the first things we experimented with. We knew that she needed to emote because of these sequences here, but at the same time, she didn't have a speaking role. And we also we were interested in seeing a creature, not necessarily a full-blown character per se, like Sid is, So the balance was to try and find a way to keep her like a creature, but still emote all the necessary ideas across. And I think we found a good balance again.
I think the question was asked of us at one point why the dinosaurs didn't speak. I think it would have been a very, very busy verbal movie had the dinosaurs spoken. And I think, so much animation is so brilliantly done when it's pantomime and not, necessarily all dialogue like this.
For instance.
But also they could lose their, I always thought that if they talk, they might look goofy and not kind of like the characters. They are part of the threat of this movie. Story-wise, so I think that if they had spoken, I think that would have feel like less interesting to me. I guess.
Well, what would they say? I'm
They
going
had to be part of this. They had to be creatures.
They had to be creatures. Yeah. Yes, I think.
This sequence, it was amazing watching Simon record these takes for this whole bone thing because he would do it straight through. Yeah, and doing all the voices. It was pretty amazing.
Wow.
I love the animation in that sequence. The way they use the puppets. I want that toy. There should be a dinosaur skull toy.
On the razor's edge of oblivion.
This sequence is just lush and incredible. And Mike, the art direction in this sequence is just brilliant.
Well, everybody did amazing work, and lighting just pulled it all together in the end. The idea here was, as Buck's telling the story, that it has this sort of graphic novel, comic book sort of feel to it. And that's where we started. It pushed away from that a little bit, but we tried to keep this really graphic, silhouetted sense. You wanted Buck to feel like he's almost like he's on a theatrical set in some places where the trees are rolling past and then you get into this surreal cloud world up here where he's above it all and you get this sense of impending doom.
And of course the allusion to Moby Dick.
Yeah.
And that, he's...
And then effects just develop just insane. The clouds and everything here are just gorgeous.
It's all 3D.
And again, it had to work in 3D.
Yeah. That was, made this all much more difficult than if we were.
And again, the minute that we figured out that this would be like an Ahab, kind of like a Moby Dick moment, like it all came to life. Because I remember we had this sequence at one point early in the movie, and it was more like a real sequence that was kind of like, was actually like it was a flashback from Buck, but was we saw a lot of the dinosaur and all stuff. So we started to make sure that we didn't see the creature until the very end. So we had to come up with a artistic, creative way just to show the dinosaur, but not show the dinosaur. And I think that's when Mike's team's like we gave the challenge of let's just try to come up with a concept, a visual concept that's not like real, is more like inside Buck's mind again, thematic to what we started to do cinematic. And then I remember seeing all these beautiful designs and boards that was always monochromatic, was like black, whites, grays, in red, because red was the color of the eye. So it was really great contrast that with the blue and the warmth of the real scene of the the campfire.
And that sequence, when it was written, had a lot of voiceover as he was telling the story, but it hadn't really realized how it was going to be shot and how it was going to be animated. And I think you guys, we talked about that. And then, I don't know, you ended up wanting to do it in a flashback, which was a great choice.
No, and it worked. And the dialogue we never changed too much dialogue in the sequence. This was one of the sequences that in terms of writing, like a lot of the key dialogues were like pretty much intact. We knew what we needed to get, but visually we haven't quite yet realized that. And that's when we needed a lot of exploration, and it took a while to get this sequence really boarded. But the thing that I love the most about it is that after we come up with the visuals that worked on the sequence, we came up with a dialogue that worked in the sequence. when I remember when we were orchestrating the song and then John Powell played that for me for the first time, I remember having goosebumps. Like I was completely, like I thought it was one of the most beautiful scores that we had in the movie. And I remember that when I saw like 100+ like orchestra piece, like playing this whole thing, I remember like just feeling like this is amazing, kind of like overall, like visually, musically, creatively, it was one of the most satisfying like moments in the movie for me.
People listening to this or watching the movie probably don't know, but the Hollywood Orchestra, the people that come in to record the music, it's unbelievable because they literally see the music for the first time 10 seconds before they play it. It's like it all goes up, they look at it, and then John Powell and the conductor, they go, okay, everybody, let's do one run through, and then they'll play through the entire piece. And it's like, how they don't make a mistake. It's amazing. It's like, it completely blew my mind every single time they did it. Just awesome.
Foraging, hunting. Missing my friends. Probably aren't missing me.
There's a lot of dramatic lighting in this movie, but there's a lot of sequences that have more subtle lighting like this one. And the lighters just did such an amazing job throughout this film.
This for me is a moment where the audience sort of falls in love with Mama because she accepts Sid, you know, and up until now, you're not quite sure where she stands, but in this shot and the tail wrapping around, I think that for the first time, really the audience understood that she has a conscience and she's protecting over our guy that, you know, we've known for 10 years.
And John Powell's music cue that he did in this was just so lovely. It was a perfect lullaby type of music that really your emotions just sort of swelled.
Manny?
This sequence also was one of the sequences that even in the early stages was always stayed in the movie. We always had this sequence like in place and all. But it was funny because we always keep thinking about like, you know, is it going to be too scary? Is it going to like, you know, and I remember we showed this like at one time and we had a test screening and we showed this and it was silent. Like nobody was like, you know, everybody was with that expectation. Like it was 400 people in the screening. And all of a sudden like the dinosaur just popped into camera and then like, and there was one kid that just like really like threw out like a huge scream, but then he started to giggle like, you know, desperately after that because he was so like caught by the moment when he realized it was like almost like a fear, funny relief.
And then the audience started laughing because it was such a charming moment.
It was a great moment.
It happens all throughout the film. I mean, you always the terror is balanced with a good laugh, just in time.
No, it was really great. And this is like, you know, part of the movie, this chunk of the movie happens at night. And we needed to make sure that even though it was at night, you could see the characters and you can have theatrical quality of the blues and the warmth of the lava pits. And the night was great.
Hey, oh!
And here's one of my favorite sequences in the movie. This is like one of, you know, I have many, but this one was special because it involved music. And this time with Scrat, was funny because I always had the rule that Scrat was always silent. There was no music behind it. And when we put music, it was classical music. So, and we had it originally for temp, like classical music playing. But then after we put Lou Rawls in the beginning, like with a more edgier, you know, more contemporary version of the music for the Scrat, because it's a love song and all, I always felt like, how can we bring back that idea of like more classical, more like, for the music? And John Powell would manage to really take that song and transform that song into a tango and later on to a classical piece, to like an old Hollywood kind of beat. And then when we listened to all the beats of the same Lou Rawls song, like played different ways, like it totally sold it for me. It was like a brilliant like choice that he made, that I was skeptical about the challenge of making it work. And I think only a guy like him could make that work. And he put together in the tango with a beautiful animation. Like we had so many amazing animators working on that dance number. Choreographed, like with beautiful storyboards, and it just really came together nicely.
Everybody stop!
The sequence for me is interesting because, like, the voice of Simon Pegg being Buck, I remember when we were creating the sequence and envisioning it, there definitely is, for me at least, was the influence of his most famous films like Hot Fuzz and Shaun of the Dead that had this really quick cutting style and worked with his comedy. So a lot of these flashbacks, for me, were kind of like an homage to that in a way.
Hunker. Oh, no.
I love the CSI element of that.
Yeah, we had fun stylistically with how we would treat the flashback in this part because it clearly had to be different than the other flashback we had done. And we came upon the idea of the film grain and stuff as if it were shot on Super 8 or something.
Yeah. With all the dirt and all.
Yeah. Scratches
and dirt.
Steps on broccoli, leaving broccoli a vegetable.
I love that limping broccoli bit.
Yeah, that was funny.
And also the animators embraced this quite a bit. Like, it was fun to just see how the animators like totally got the idea that this is over the top craziness, and then just went to town. The little details, the broccoli and the limp broccoli and all that stuff.
Yeah, it gave the animators an opportunity to take Sid to places that he would never go in real life.
Yeah, I think we took some liberties on that one, and we had a good time with that broccoli. We spent a lot of time making sure that
broccoli was a technically too. I remember we had a broccoli meeting.
Oh, yeah,
remember the broccoli meeting? Like, we cannot do the broccoli because all the little flowers that make the broccoli. It's like, come on, guys.
They always figure it out.
Yeah. Well, somebody said maybe the broccoli can be a carrot, and somehow a carrot wasn't quite as fun.
No.
Again, green is fun.
Easier, but This is also a great musical beat here too. Like, again, like it's Blue Ross again, but we're feeling more of like the old movies, like Gone with the Wind, one of those old, like, Hollywood classics.
When They Kiss, you mean?
In the Kiss, yeah.
Yeah, it's like Rachmaninoff meets Lou Rawls.
I know.
Pantomime is great in that little section where he gets her up there with the little like Batman grappling hook and then tugs her. Yeah. Everybody always laughs at that because it's just it's a perfect acting. Great.
It's so twisted.
So inappropriate.
Yeah, exactly.
Here comes the eyelashes again. This eyelashes is incredible. Like, everybody talks about the eyelashes. I don't know. But the eyelashes. Especially the mascara. What is that? The blue thing there?
Scrat doesn't have any eyelashes, does he?
No, he's pretty.
We didn't have the technology for eye.
There was a fire.
Effects. Oh my God. Effects went to town with this lava. I remember I looked at lava in the first movie. We had a little sequence in the lava, and it was like, okay, like back then was
got away with it.
But now with the new technology that we developed for that is like incredible, and we're gonna see even more like now to the end of the second act with lava falls and all, but just incredible stuff.
Now we're heading into the sets where we asked ourselves, how could we possibly make our lives more complicated?
Well, because you had so many pieces, like for lighting wise, and also complexity of all the characters. I remember even in animation was like huge. Just to get those rocks to feel like effects, like the dust and all that.
But it was a great choice to go with rock through all of this section because virtually every frame had to be rendered unique because the camera is constantly moving, for the next 10 minutes of the movie here.
Well, and it set it apart visually from the rest of the movie.
Right.
With the foliage in Lost World.
And Peter, what are those blue guys called?
Those nasty guys are called Guanlong.
And they are great too. It was another favorite design that came up, and especially the colors and the elements of it. It's like scary, but at the same time bright and colorful.
Electric.
What he had that opalescence kind of like thing. Like, it's really cool.
I love what the animators did with the quills on the back of their neck. It makes them just extra creepy.
Yeah, they needed to have a creepy sound. They needed to have like a recognizable sound that we track through.
Like a rattlesnake sort of.
Like a rattlesnake.
Is how we justify it in our heads.
And also this whole set is a huge set piece for a gigantic action for the end of the second act. Like, set piece is just really incredible. We needed to have all these elements together.
Lighting wise, this is one of my favorite sequences. I know there's something about the greens that are just beautiful.
For me, it's everything that we learned on all the other sequences with the jungle came together in this one sequence. And it just feels like you're there.
Well, the depth of like the lights, the volumetric lights, and the feel of the smoke and all those elements to make it feel a little eerie, but at the same time kind of like, beautiful.
You can feel the humidity in it.
Here's a great moment. Seeing her portrait, her face.
Oh, and this is a Mike Knapp idea.
That wasn't
a Mike Knapp idea.
Either, was it?
Probably the most debated shot in the movie.
It stood out to me. I thought it was such a brilliant.
I remember being scared about the shot a couple of times.
There was a lot of people that were terrified.
I was like, and this doesn't look very good. Like, finding the have meaning, like, what is it, what we see and what we don't see. But also, this whole chunk here, I think, out of the movie was the biggest challenge in all levels, directorially, editorially, art direction wise, and because it's we have to service like all the arcs of the story, like Ellie, pregnancy, Diego's arc, like Manny trying to like get to Ellie, the possums and Buck trying to rescue Sid trying not to die, and all those things, like, it's all culminating to this moment. We always knew that we were coming to this place, but how we were going to organize, and that took us quite a long time just to figure out. Like, we had many different versions of the cut of this.
That's the beauty. Like, I love this. We threw everything up in the air, and it's like this kind of Return of the Jedi sort of. You've got all these battles, Luke fighting Darth Vader, and you know what I mean? It's just like all these great action pieces kind of
coming together, and also done with comedically, because we couldn't lose just it just could be just action for the action's sake. We needed to have the character.
But the thing is, we knew exactly what each piece was going to be and where they needed to be and who needed to be doing what. The question was how to interweave them and edit them so that they keep
find a balance
everything
too.
moving, and that you don't get lost when you cut away to each one.
Exactly. Like concerns about where we actually are geographically was a big issue, that we were worried about the audience getting lost on where everyone was.
All right, it's okay. Daddy's coming. I gotta say, sweetheart, you really got timing.
We went quite a lot back and forth on this.
The comedy elements that are in that intense action makes the action more fun and makes the comedy more fun. When you mash up the two together, for me, is very effective.
A lot of that actually too goes to Randy Tom and the sound guys to pull the comedy out of the stuff. They did a really good job of making the Guanlongs, even though they were scary, they were funny when they got hit, which kind of releases the tension. Made a big difference.
It was a very delicate sound balance through this whole sequence, because the music is huge, the sound effects are huge. We got the sound of the pterodactyls, the sort of the airplane kind of paradigm going on, and so it really was kind of a balancing act of all those elements and finding when to push the certain elements and bring it all into focus.
I remember that was
lava looks amazing.
It's amazing.
But I was nervous for a while. The first couple of versions we saw of it was like, like, did we bite off more than we could chew? But it came together.
Effects, materials, and R&D worked so hard on that, and it just looks amazing.
Yeah, like R&D dedicated, like Hugo was dedicated to lava for a while.
Yeah.
Well, we set aside sort of special SWAT teams to go in and solve technical problems at this point in the production. We actually sat down in a room and identified 10 different special projects, and one of them was lava. Okay, we just need to have a very interdisciplinary approach to solving lava. And we knew it was going to involve R&D. We knew it was going to involve effects. We knew it was going to involve compositing. And so it was really important that all those guys constantly talk to one another to crack.
Ellie!
Manny!
I know you're wondering, that was a pterodactyl.
Thank you. Thank you, Peter.
The other one's a pterosaur.
Pterosaur. I've been saying pterodon. Oh my god.
Oh no. Pterodon's all over.
So anyone I told pterodon,
It's embarrassing. We do a lot of research.
We're artists, not scientists.
But how many dinosaurs did you design?
I thought I did about 20.
Yeah, and we kept how many do we? Probably kept 12. About 15 or 12.
Yeah, somewhere in there.
The Pachycephalosaurus didn't end up getting their own sequence.
I know. We had at one point.
I know. Maybe it could be in the next movie.
Well,
never mind.
Along with the plant.
Woo! My paws are burning.
By the way, we just missed Diego's arc, where he completes the arc where at the beginning he was chasing the gazelle, ran out of breath, it got blurry, and he had to stop, and he was made fun of. And now he was chasing the Guanlong and got blurry and he got out of breath, but he got new resolve and determination. He actually was going to save his friend's woman. So it completely, his arc is
But it's a fun moment too for the character, because I think that the fun of this is the coaching of the birth. And I remember going to the booth with Dennis and just really, trying Dennis, you have kids too, so remember, and no, okay, but we have to try it again. It's like,
I remember recording Latifah doing the breathing. She practically passed out because of all the
we use that as a gag there too, just that she actually passes out, that Diego actually gets a little
I think Dennis did feel a little like he was going to pass out at one point.
It's already enough.
We had to do so many takes, and it's interesting because the actors sometimes keep saying, why I did that before, why do I have to do it again? And we have to record them over and over again. And part of it is the main kind of just getting the best out of the batch of the sounds that we get out of them.
Look!
Now, what were you thinking when you were doing this sequence? Because this aerial battle is just amazing, and just the shots and what was it you were trying to accomplish? Did you accomplish what you wanted to? Or?
Yeah, it's interesting because this sequence, we boarded this sequence it was one of the first sequences we boarded. We had Adam came, he boarded the entire sequence, very rough. So we knew that we're gonna have an air battle. And we knew that it's going to be like this kind of sequence, but then we had a whole thing board together. And then Tony Mackie started to get into the sequence and trying to really carve out all the character moments and all the, so we had like a lot of boards. And then like, Mike and Jim starting to like cut the sequence together and start to like carve it out. And then we're starting to find like the key moments for each part of it.
It had to become like each bit you cut to in the air battle had to be something unique. You couldn't repeat any ideas because it gets old fast. Like the audience gets used to seeing it. So each little bit has like a particular flavor and strong idea. Like this we called the NASCAR shot coming around the bend.
And again, we did a lot of previs in this because the key of this was just like it should feel like you getting into this world of the flying world, which is something that will work beautifully for what we have now. And also for the 3D experience. So so we made sure that we had this very iconic, like big action pieces that would look great and sound effect and all those elements together. So it was very exciting just to see the sequence come together, and took a long time because we had way more material than what we see here. The sequence was double the length of what we have here. And then we just picked the essential for the fun, the excitement that will help us with the intercutting.
And was Star Wars sort of
completely
homage to Star Wars?
There's a couple shots. I mean, the possums firing those things is like Luke and Han in the Millennium Falcon.
Mm-hmm. Oh, this was great though when they're going down.
Like it's just the concept of like it just tapping the eye like
like the dial.
And then, of course, his unique way of starting the engine again.
Yeah, that was an ad lib by Simon.
Yeah, it takes like 50. Yeah, it was definitely like something.
Our screening.
Yeah,
no, it's a great one. And this is again the contribution of the actors. It's a very collaborative process that everybody works together to get the best out of it, and that was great too.
The animation in this is superb. Yeah,
it's really
amazing.
A beautiful example of all the departments sort of pulling together early, because we had to build an entire like pre-visualized set, which wasn't not with real models. And then we actually animated cameras and then went back in and fleshed it out more fully and with a much clearer idea of what we needed to see.
I think it's changed how we do things at Blue Sky, actually. Moving forward, it kind of previs has become a huge element now.
Definitely. It saves us so much effort in the end.
I love that shot where they hit the idea. I mean, it really, to show the two worlds and how close they are to get to each other, it was so
that was
much
James
fun.
Colombo's idea, you remember? Like to have him actually hit, because we kept trying to crack that joke. Like, remember, they didn't hit; they just kind of floated up to the top and looked at the other animals, and it never really landed as like funny. And then his idea to have him slam.
That's great, and this is so funny.
It's a great shot.
When have Diego animated that he's almost like
actually when the animator like
himself.
when the animator Paul like started to do this, like he just like he looked like Diego was having a baby.
Well, I love the reversal there. It's just so hilarious that you come back and he's the one pushing. It was just such a brilliant idea.
Again, in terms of themes, like trying to get these dinosaurs to be scary, but at the same time to have comedy, this is the stuff that we always keep pushing for like, Diego's like in moments of trying to coach Ellie, Manny trying to get there until we go to the moment that everybody's kind of expecting to be, which is the birth of the baby, which was like kind of like a great, like, change of pace. We go from a lot of action to the very kind of subtle. And again, John Powell like brought back old themes from the second movie. Like he created beautiful themes for the characters for the second movie. And here's a good example of bringing back those themes in a very kind of like, lovable, emotional moment of the movie.
And this moment always gets an awe.
Always get an awe. It's the classic, the baby.
I think cinematic.
So cute, Peter.
For sure.
She's so adorable.
I think the cinematic choice of staying on Manny when you first hear the baby born was a really good one, because it's really, we've been seeing Manny, we've been with him about where the baby was going to be born and what kind of birth it was going to be. And so it felt appropriate to see Manny's expression as the baby is first born.
And he was fretting so much, and he was so worried and wanted the safest place on earth for the baby to be born. That's what he was preparing up in the Ice Age. And now he finds she's going to be born in the most dangerous place in the world. So to see his expression of just pure joy amidst all this angst and adventure was just great.
And also, again, like, the characters are back. All the characters are back.
It's Sid!
Am I imagining an echo to that cave painting sequence in the first movie where he reaches out and touches the painting of his boy?
It's similar.
The way he reaches out and touches her with his trunk has a very similar quality to it.
It's coming full circle. Like in the first movie, he lost his family. He lost his wife, and here it's back Manny getting that back, getting the wife and the kid back. And part of the reason why he's so, like when we were starting to create character descriptions for Manny, part of the reason why he was so overprotective of this pregnancy and this baby He's like, if you go into his head, is the fact that he lost them once. He doesn't want to lose them again. So he wants to make this the perfect place for them to be born. But what he doesn't realize, and what he realizes it now, is the fact that, no matter where the baby is born, as long as you have your friends and your family around it, the issues will be fine. Like, you're going to solve your problems. And it's a great, funny, emotional moment, too.
And that was a tricky thing because we can't have over the whole movie the memory hanging over the movie, the memory of his family that died. It just would have been tough.
No, we because it's a trickle, we had all these great elements just to bring into the story.
But I think people who haven't seen the first movie, I don't know that it really,
it doesn't matter.
Need to have seen it to get the emotion out of this moment. But if you had seen the first movie, then it just informs even more powerfully that moment.
This is one sequence also that I had in my head, even when we're starting to think about the love triangle, Scrat Girl, and the nut, which I always thought was a great concept that we played with. But I always keep thinking, the most unique, for me, this is one of the most unique sequences of Scrat, because we never done a sequence from the nut's perspective, which was always something that I thought was intriguing. What if the Scrat didn't care for the nut anymore? What would happen to the nut? And that's when the idea of what we call neglected came together. And I always love this concept, to play the sequence of the nut said that's the love triangle will work the other way, and now the Scrat is interested in the girl and not in the nut.
And using the song Alone Again naturally, or Alone Again naturally.
Oh, naturally. Yeah, that's how
But I love the lyrics. Buck, he's calling Scrat a bucktooth Casanova, and he misses, his
shallow breathing,
the shallow
rapid,
breathing, rapid breathing. Oh,
I like giving emotion to the nut that has no expressions, no controls. It's all the situation and juxtaposition.
But the stem, the heartbroken. But the stem of the nut, you could see, it almost is emoting in a way as it's following the Scrat.
Droop down, when you sad, they have the tear, So
you
it was
really
a lot of
pushed
fun.
It with the tear. The teardrop. I think it broke the
It's like
rules
cheesy.
just a
It
little
should
bit.
feel cheesy and kind of
It's raining.
Oh, that's okay. As long as there is
that
a
was
physical. Oh, it was?
Yes.
All right. I'm sorry. Wrong.
But here comes the big moment. We're being hiding this guy for the whole movie, and it was very hard just to not just show him in all through. And then we had to come up with the shot that the guy would come back. And this is one of the last sequences we animated in the movie. And rightly so, because it was one of the most complex one that we had to figure out, not only with the storyboards, but with all the elements that came together and to reveal Rudy in its full form there.
He's so attractive.
What kind of dinosaur is Rudy, Pete?
He is based, as I recall, on the baryonyx.
Now, they weren't albinos?
No, they weren't.
Yeah.
That was a story choice. In fact, we spent a real long time doing a richly colored version of this character.
He was very rich.
Until a certain point, somebody came up with the great idea of picking up on the...
What was the whole Moby
Dick
Dick, and he half came to life with the white creature, the big white.
I think it makes him stand out over all the other dinosaurs.
Absolutely. And that was part of the challenge in designing this character. He had to be different than the other ones. He couldn't look like another version of the T-Rex.
But this is another very challenging sequence in all levels, animation-wise, camera-wise, and also sound effects and music. It's a very active, big sequence, and we wanted to find the right balance with it. It was very satisfying, too, to see all the characters working together. This was a sequence that was created for all the characters to be together, and it was really cool. Callbacks, using homage, like King Kong and stuff like that, with with the airplanes and stuff. It was a big... I think people were expecting, I was at least, expecting it to get to this moment, looking forward to seeing them, battling. And it's not that they're trying to kill the beast or anything. That was more like the conquering of the problems. If Rudy's, the biggest problem they ever encountered, it's only working together that they solve their issue. So, it's also a great, message there, for our characters.
And they weren't trying to kill him. They're just trying to stop him so they can get to safety.
Long enough for them to get out.
Right.
Yeah. Awesome materials on this too.
Look at the scar.
I love that Buck actually touches the scar. So gross.
No touching the scar.
This is a cool shot. The sound, I remember our first pass on the sound design, when that eye opened, it was a huge thing, and we're like, whoa, I have to dial back on that.
It sounded like a gunshot.
Yeah.
I'm so glad we were able to go back in and redo the eyes. They were a little more like our other characters at one point. We went back in and just made them evil.
And it's funny how we're able to get away with this because Trek's mom is actually a third as big as baryonyx, and it doesn't really show up on film. But
Well, they're both hunched over.
Yeah. Again,
very quickly.
another great moment for the audience to just completely love Mama, because she comes and rescues Sid, and she saves the day. Yeah.
It's Rudy's head. It throws his balance off, It's so top heavy.
I know, it's so big. Yeah. Actually, I remember seeing like a shot of Rudy's like next to the guys, and actually his head was so big, and he could eat every character there like in one bite,
Come here, kids. I think we might have ended up lengthening his tail a little bit too, right, Galen, in certain shots, because it was a little, just for the balance of composition and stuff.
Horrifying dinosaurs. Just like your mother.
It's a great moment for Sid here too. Great stuff, but John Leguizamo like really, we embraced like the moment of like the goodbye moment. Like Mama really, it's a character here too,
Nice and slimy.
Those babies just were so adorable, though. They were just so adorable, and having this emotional scene where Sid has to let them go and say goodbye. It's really kind of.
You can't lose putting babies in a movie. You just get so much
It's a slam.
mileage.
Rule for people making movies, please put babies in it.
Ice Age babies.
Ice Age babies.
Yeah. Ice Age Origins. They could all be
tiny
yes. versions of themselves.
Parents said.
Ice Age 4.
Can I babysit you?
Now accepting any and all ideas.
All right, I'll think about it. Never.
Here we go. Like we're starting to get into like wrapping up the movie in terms of the lost world, like the world of the dinosaurs, kind of like idea coming together, and it was kind of like really interesting just to see. By this point, most of the characters' arc are done, and we have again all the characters back together.
I've been down here so long.
Can I have that portrait of the bunch of them framed, please? That's a great shot.
Where Sid smiles.
Look at us.
Yeah.
We look like a normal herd to you.
Well, it was important for us to see them as a group
This one.
again.
That one.
So it really, truly is a family
Love
portrait.
that.
Yeah, it's a great.
Actually, this
Forgot
I
about
can remember was another expensive concern because of seeing the vista shots again, and they were very like, you can't show any more than, if you go 2 degrees to the right, all of a sudden, it's.
Yeah.
But didn't we amortize this shot? We used it twice.
Yeah, I know. It was worth it.
Again, like you mentioned earlier, Carlos, this is sort of a bookend to where them coming in, and visually it's striking visually, so that they're back in the same place and they're going the opposite direction.
And also, I love I think it gives you like this shot for me, like the blues instantly. When I see blue, like in the Ice Age, it makes you like I'm going back to the Ice Age. So the palette of this was beautiful. It was just like after a whole second act with the lush and beautiful kind of like warms, and you get into this place, it's just you completely know you're getting out of one world and getting to the other one. And bringing Rudy back was like something that we always loved. And we always debated like if Buck would go back and if he would stay, what would be Buck's like final arc. And we always felt that he belonged so well into that world that he kind of needed to stay.
I think we all realized that the character, if we did the character right, he probably wouldn't have survived well in the world up there anyways.
And it's been said to me a few times, is Buck going to get his own movie?
Really?
Well, one thing that I love here is that Buck and Diego basically have the same conversation that Diego had with Manny, with a different result.
Right.
That Buck decided that, they both understood the need for Buck to stay where he was. He needed to be an alone guy.
Is everybody okay?
It's funny, when we were doing the lighting for this sequence, I remember we kept feeling like, is it too bright? Is it blown out? Like, what's going on? It feels like something's off in the balance, but it's actually, we've been down in the Lost World for so long.
And you go to the eyes.
Your eyes can do it. Just, and we were comparing it against the beginning of the movie. It's exactly the same. We've just been used to different colors.
We actually fine-tuned it a little bit.
Oh, you did?
Just to take the edge off. Just a little bit. But we also wanted this to be the most idyllic Ice Age scenario, from a lighting standpoint. That's just gorgeous.
It's great to see the baby in the and like the snow. There's this nice feeling of seeing the baby in the snow and just having all this kind of like
pay off the welcome to the Ice Age line,
which is like I always thought was one of my favorite like moments in the writing. Like that was like in the very early stages of the script. That line was there, and was always we always toyed with the idea of how the end of the sequence, but that line was always like our anchor. Like we knew that we needed to keep the line, but exactly where we never knew it. And it was great, like, to do, like, shots like this. We have the possums interacting. Like, again, it's bringing back all the good old physical comedy feels. And that's, I think, part of the beauty of the Blue Sky work and the animators' work is, like, the physical comedy and getting all these comedic moments.
That bit was just sort of invented in animation.
It was.
Like,
was expanded. Like, was expanded, like, 5 times the original length in the storyboards. It was great.
Now it's snowing on a perfectly blue sky day.
There were 2 clouds.
Well, what's happening there? It happens.
It happened.
This is also the first ice age to not end on a sunset, I believe.
Oh, yeah.
That's right.
I like the ending. I think the ending feels really classy here with the mobile.
Well, the mobile. We play, full circle, the true meaning of the family, everybody together in the mobile again.
Back to good use.
Yeah.
Yeah. And, of course, the addition of Buck. I thought it was always great to just go back into Buck's world. Just for a second.
To make sure that he's fine and that Rudy's still alive and he was in his glory now.
And also, as a tradition, we end with Scrat, for sure. And this is something that, yes, why do we always do this? Because it works. It was really something that we love doing it. We love to set the tone of the movie with a Scrat and end with and this was a great new bit to it. Again, music playing. Again, variations of music that we have, like the Lou Rawls stuff, playing here too. At the same time,
it's like a death march.
A death march, and that it's a whole conflict that going through the Scrat's head. We never gave Scrat so much conflict. He always one note guy, just the nut, and now we gave Scrat
I love that bit where you first see the nut and it has the call of the sirens. Yeah. I remember John Powell directing the singers to be make it more they were singing, it was good, but they're make it more Snow White, and then all of a sudden the pitch came up in their voices and it became really funny.
This is just classic. Two lovers finding each other again.
Yeah. Kind of shades of Ice Age 2 in there with the
with the heaven, but this time it's real. It's not a dream anymore.
But this time now,
I love
got the old battle axe.
Horns come back.
Horns come back. Yeah. Jealousy.
Yeah, the rage.
Yeah, the rage. All the steps of a love triangle there.
Yeah, so we've gone through a whole relationship in this movie with the two Scrats.
Which was a lot of fun. To go back to the essence, of it.
Well, he's always his own work.
I love this shot too, the Cape Canaveral.
Yeah, and the separation of the.
Right.
It's funny I mean, they can't see it in stereo, but in stereo, I thought this sequence played amazing for depth and scale.
It's a great sequence for both, levels, concept wise, and again, it seems easy watching it now, but it was a sequence that we struggled quite a bit just to get all the elements there and to make sure they had the perfect
running
balance.
Out of time.
And actually to get a satisfying closure to the movie, which is kind of always the goal with the Scrat. It's just he has the responsibility to tie up the movie and make it the movie ends on the high note.
I love that you see the little ice falling from the sky before it gets there. It's funny.
Yeah, that's great. But here we're getting close to the end.
There's that classic twitch.
Yeah.
The classic twitch. We were asked to do this fun moment, that probably musical number where Sid could be doing something fun with the kids and dancing or something like that. So we got the happy combination of Queen Latifah recording one of the songs that appeared in the movie as an Ice Age version of that, Walk the Dinosaur. She did a beautiful job getting her voice to get this great celebratory spirit at the end of the movie. And the animes went to town, shooting references of them doing moves and doing dances and stuff. And we picked the best out of the batch, and we came up with a bunch of little vignettes of them doing some fun dancing with the music of Queen Latifah. Her group was really fun.
We actually opened it up to the studio. Just come by this one room and we'll set up a camera and everybody can dance in front of it. I remember we just laughed so hard in editorial watching all the clips put together. All these people that you wouldn't expect to be dancing or doing crazy stuff.
It's always the quietest ones that have they just come out and they do this crazy dance movie and you're just wow, where did that come from?
And then they animated those for the end credits.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we animated a lot of those.
Use them for inspiration.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, and here are the drawings for the kids.
Oh yeah.
Oh,
these drawings were done by
Children of Ice Age. Children of the Ice Age. Children of the Ice Age.
Yes. Yeah. Previous Ice Age babies. At the end of each of our films, we have a list of the Ice Age babies, children born during production.
Yeah, but this is one of my favorite traditions that we've always done from the very beginning. I think it's just great to get the families of the people that work all the overtime and all the work they put into these films, and then the kids get a little bit.
Yeah, so
my girls.
Oh yeah,
oh yeah,
yeah. I was so lucky. My first daughter, Pauline, was born during the first film. Squeeze her into the credits, and Fia, we brought her home just while you guys were wrapping up the credits. Was able to put her in.
I beat you on that because I have the tradition of having I have 3 kids and each one of them was born in one of the Ice Age. So
and now she's expecting a 4th.
Now she's expecting a 4th. That would be whatever,
Charles was like, please, no more sequels.
No more sequels.
Every sequel, Carlos has to build a new bedroom.
I know. Yeah, exactly.
And actually, the credits was a bit of a technical challenge, too, because of the 3D. We'd never done 3D credits before, and so we needed to come up with a depth for the various names and the titles and the drawings, and Mike Knapp worked a lot on that one.
We kind of wanted to treat it like a multi-plane sort of feel, so that the drawings were forward, the type was on a layer slightly back, and then there was this larger ghosted drawing underneath it all to give it depth. And I think some of the kids were really excited to see their drawings blown up so gigantic.
And back to the song again, I think Queen Latifah, we wanted to end the film on a really powerful, really fun, dancing in the aisles kind of song, and the choice, Queen Latifah just does it. She just has so much spirit and so much enthusiasm, and her voice is just so much fun to listen to. So I think it just escorted everybody out of the audience in a very spirited, fun way. But it's really interesting. So far, all the audiences I've seen it with have stayed right until the very end, because the song just sort of propels them. The animation propels them to sort of sit in their seats and watch. And it's really fun. I've usually audiences dash out of the theater at the very end of the movie, but now I'm seeing them stay. So I guess, Queen Latifah really rules the day.
Well, and after the Queen Latifah song, it's fun that John Powell took a lot of the themes and bits and pieces of the music and actually wrote a unique suite of music that plays through the end credits, almost as an orchestral piece, almost 7 minutes long. But it was not just pieces that were just stuck together. They were recorded unique for the end titles.
And they recorded it from beginning to end all the way through 8 minutes. It was just brilliant. And I guess that concludes the music and the song of the Ice Age.
I just want to use this time just to thank everybody that, to make this movie like as good it was. And we're very proud and very happy to be part of this great Blue Sky family. This is our third movie. And I think that we kind of managed to really, do the best we could with it. It was like very
Ice Age movies are always fun to work on. I don't know, there's something special about them that just, I don't know, the feeling of the crew or how everybody gets behind it.
I'm always so happy to return to this world. I love the characters. I feel very protective.
I think that's a part of it. I think they've sort of become our family, and our friends are so dysfunctional in and of themselves that we just love watching them. They always get into mischief and trouble, but there's such heart that they have. And, it's just wonderful to reunite with them.
And thank the audience for watching Ice Age. Thank you very much. Group hug.
I said it wasn't going to cook.